Okay, good morning. Thank you for coming. Today, we're going to talk about working with the buyer in the purchase process. So last week, we talked about navigating the MLS, showed you guys how to do searches. So when we touch on that here within this class of the presentation, you'll know what to do, right? In searching for properties and setting up auto emails and so forth. So today, we're going to cover Intel. What if we're going to need to get started? We're going to talk about your value, tell them what you're going to do for them. The search, using the intel that you find for the property search, or the intel that you end up getting from them, right? So that you're going to ask them a bunch of questions. You're going to use that information to find them the right properties. And then the offer, what documents you're going to need to submit the offer. And I think there's one more, the acceptance. What happens after your offer gets accepted? So this is, I think this is a pretty good summary of what you're going to go through during the purchase process. So first, gathering intel. What does that mean? Well, at first, you're either going to send an email with the questions that you're going to want to ask the buyer, right, or potential client, or maybe you can ask them over the phone while you have them on the phone, or wait until you end up meeting them in person. But it helps to have all these, to give them the questions ahead of time if you're going to schedule an appointment with them. So that way it gives them time to actually think about it and answer the questions. So that way, when they sit down with you, you ask them these questions, they're ready to answer. So you're going to need names and complete contact information, including direct phone number, email address, and current mailing address for the buyers. You want to know if they have a property to sell right now. What has you thinking about buying now? These are the questions you want to ask them. Have you purchased a home before? How familiar are you with the buying process and selling process? Rated from a scale of 1 to 4. Have you been pre-approved with the lender, or are you going to buy it cash? What are you looking for in a real estate agent? So you're going to schedule your buyer's consultation right after you either email them these questions, or maybe they don't want to sit down with you and they don't have time. You can ask these questions over the phone. Take your time. But so there's no particular order on how you're supposed to do this. And keep in mind that whatever we talk about here, discuss here, this is not the only way of dealing with the buyer. This is just to get you guys to understand what you're supposed to do during the buyer process, right? You're going to figure out your own way of doing it and your own steps on what you're going to need to do, or steps you need to take when working with the buyer. So remember, during the presentation, actively take notes. This is when you're sitting down with the buyer. It shows that you're interested in what they're saying and that you're actually paying attention. Plus, you might forget some of this stuff. It's important that you remember this. And it shows respect, and don't omit any detail. So if there's something that they're harping about, make sure you write that down, because it's very important if they keep talking about it. I don't know why that came in a second. If meeting in the office, offer them a beverage, coffee, whatever, just to make it comfortable, right? So we should have said that first, depending on where you're going to meet with them. During your presentation, review the answers to the following questions associated with the questionnaire you sent. So if you sent them the questionnaire ahead of time, you scheduled an appointment, you emailed them the questions, now you're sitting down with them, the appointment. First question is, how do you prefer to be contacted? And again, these questions can be in any order. They don't have to be in this order. How do you prefer to be contacted? And this demonstrates your communication skills, right? Because there might be someone, you have clients that are going to be millennials, you're going to have clients that are going to be boomers, and everything in between. And boomers, they wanted maybe a phone call. And then Gen X people like me are going to want maybe an email, text, either works, right? A phone call, I don't care. Call me. As long as you reach out to me and I know that you did, I'm cool with it. And then millennials, that just a lot of them, they want text. Just text me. I don't want to check my emails. I don't want you to call me. I don't answer my mom's phone calls either, so don't be offended. Just text me. So you're gonna have people from all sorts of lives, ways of living, right? So make sure that you communicate with your buyers the way they prefer to be communicated, right? So if they want to be texted, don't send them emails. Don't call them. If they want you to call them, don't text them, because they probably don't check text messages or emails. So this is very important. Next, have you purchased a home before? This helps you understand the extent of their experience, right? If they're a first-time buyer, or if they've been through the process before, they know the steps. So it helps you measure the level of experience they have in buying a home. Next question, are you working with a lender? What does this do? It lays out the ground for a financial conversation. Are they pre-approved yet, or are they gonna pay cash? And at this point, if they're not working with a lender pre-approved, you can recommend one, or a couple, 2 or 3 that you're working with, and then let them decide who they're more comfortable with, right? So if you're gonna refer something like a lender to someone, don't just refer one to them, give them a couple options. Do you currently have a home to sell? So this is gonna help you tailor your presentation or the next questions based on how they answer this, right? So if they say, yeah, we need to sell our home and we're gonna buy another one, we've outgrown it, blah, blah, blah. Then that goes into a whole other set of questions, and you're asking them about, you know, why are you moving? I mean, why are you selling that home? Are you gonna rent it out? Are you gonna sell it? What do you plan on doing with it? All these questions, right? How much do you owe on it? Are you gonna use the equity from there? Are you gonna get a loan against the property to buy your new property? So why buy and why buy now? Yeah, gain valuable insight into the reasons for buying a home that will let you tailor your services and the rest of your conversations to this situation. So you want to know why they're buying now, and there could be different reasons why they're buying. Maybe their kids are going into high school and they want to live in a particular school district. Maybe the wife got a new job, a promotion somewhere, and she wants to move closer to work. Maybe the husband, I don't know, same thing, right? Whatever the reason, this helps you understand what their motive is and helps you help them better. What are your timelines for purchasing a home? Like, this helps you understand how motivated they are. Do they need to move right away? Do they need to move within the next 6 months? They're okay with that, or they want to move within the next year. So that way it helps you understand how attentive you need to be to, you know, finding them a home right now, or versus set them up on an auto email and just let them look at pricing. And then they figure out, you know, so let me back up a little bit. If you need to find them a home now, you're gonna be searching every single day for something that matches their criteria. If they're not ready to move for like 6 months to a year, you're gonna set them up on an auto email, and this helps them understand what pricing is like for the particular homes that they're looking for. So it makes everything realistic for them. So if they're looking for a 4-bedroom in the city of Irvine for $850,000, then you're not gonna find it. So you're gonna send them every 4-bedroom in Irvine, set them for an auto email within the whole city that's active on the market. Or maybe you also send them an email, automatic email that sends out closed sales for 4 bedrooms. And it tells them what they closed for. Now, they're gonna sit back and say, wow, this is what they're closing for. Okay, we're not being realistic with what we're looking for, with how much we want to pay for it.
City.
Yeah, so this all helps you and helps your cause, right, to help them. Yeah,
So if you put them on an auto email, they should be getting everything, right? Or should you still be looking and doing the same thing? Are you gonna see the same thing that's being sent to them? When you
well,
look every day?
yeah, we'll talk about that later on, but that's a good question. So what worries or concerns are in the back of your mind when you think of buying? So is there something that they're ask the question and then remain silent, let them think about it, right? So there might be something like, I don't know, time or money that they have to wait for certain money to clear from their 401k or something. Like there could be any reason, right? That's gonna give them concern. Or maybe they're wondering, oh, if we buy now, what if prices drop next year and we lose money on it? Well, guess what? You're not gonna lose money until you actually sell the house. So unless you're selling the house next year, you don't have to worry about it, right? Because prices fluctuate in real estate. And right now they're still going up, they're still trending up, but even when they've gone down, they eventually come back up. So that might be a concern. Or another concern could be like, what if I buy a house this year and then it goes up way up next year.
That's
a good concern, right? That's a good problem to have. How familiar are you with the buying or selling process? So, scale of 1 to 4, again, this gives you a better understanding of what kind of terms they're gonna understand, like what escrow is, what title is, what the closing costs are gonna be, commission. They'll have a better understanding of what they're doing, right, and what you're doing to help them. How has your search been going so far? So this helps you, I guess, understand whether they've started their search or if they haven't searched at all. Let's move on here. Have you looked at houses? How many houses have you already looked at? So the first question was, like, have you looked at stuff online, right? Have you started searching? This one talks about, have you visited open houses? Or have you visited open houses with another agent? By the way, do you have a contract signed with another agent? Because if you do, I can't help you, right? So all these questions are gonna help you figure all this stuff out. What if we found the perfect house tomorrow? This gauges their readiness, right? So they're real excited about buying a new home and telling you, we need to move right away. And so you ask them, what if we find a house tomorrow? Are you ready to move on? They'll be like, well, yeah, we really want to buy a house, but tomorrow, I don't know. It's just like, okay, so, but it helps you understand, right? Even though someone's really excited, they might not be ready tomorrow. They might be, not ready until like a month from now, or they have to settle some things, or whatever. Maybe look at schools and decide what school they want to go to, or that their kids want to go to, and all that. Let's see. What are your 3 favorite neighborhoods and why? And I would ask this to someone that's not sure of a neighborhood, but most people are going to know exactly where they want to move, right? We like this neighborhood, we want to buy in this particular area, but you're going to have some buyers that are going to say, yeah, we want to look at houses in Mission Viejo by closer to the 5, but we also like houses in Huntington Beach. And you're like, are you serious? Right? So that's when you ask these people these questions, right? Like, hey, so just narrow it down. What neighborhoods do you like? Because now we're talking whole cities and like way different types of homes, year built, everything. So let's move on. What's your favorite room in the house? This is important because it helps you understand, like, first of all, when you're doing the search, trying to find them the perfect house. There's some people, they're like, you know what, we spend a lot of time in the bedroom. We want a big, nice bedroom, right? With the view, or with sliding door in the balcony, or whatever it is. Or you're gonna have someone that spends time in the kitchen area. They want open, entertaining. They entertain a lot. They have people over, so they want the center island with open kitchen and dining area together. Or they're gonna say, we don't care about the inside. We want a big yard because we have parties all the time. We have people over and a lot of family and barbecues and so forth. So helps you understand what it is they're looking for to help them find the perfect house, because sometimes they're not gonna articulate that. They're gonna say, yeah, we're looking for a 3-bedroom house, maybe at least 2,000 square feet in this city, and we want a good size yard. And that's what they're gonna say. But now you're getting a little more out of them, right? Like what style, what type of home, what style, like, do you like new homes? Do you like older homes? Do you like, do you want HOA, no HOA? You start asking other questions. Here it is. How important is outdoor or garage space? This might affect the price range. And then if you end up, while doing the search, narrowing it down to properties with a lot size of this plus, like 6,000 plus square feet, 8,000 plus square feet, you're gonna eliminate a lot of homes, right? So it's gonna narrow the search, you're gonna have less results. And if they want a condo, are they okay with the parking space, the carport, if there's no garage? So these are things you wanna ask. And then here we go to ask about number of beds, baths, square footage, number of levels. Do you want single level? Are you okay with 2 levels? Tri-level. Ask about the neighborhood. characteristics. It's, just anything that's gonna help you narrow down the search for them, to find out exactly what they're looking for. You don't wanna show them a bunch of houses that they're not interested in. So sometimes at first when you're working with a buyer, they're not sure exactly what they want to do, right? They just know, I want this particular area or this city, and you start showing them a bunch of properties and they say, no, I don't like this because of this, no, I don't like this. You start getting a better understanding of, okay, so now I know what they don't like. So I'm not gonna show them properties that have those features. Right, and you've gone through this,
Yeah,
right? So. If you walk into a house and they say, oh, I don't like this kitchen's too small, I don't like this because of that. Okay, don't show them houses with small kitchens. That helps you. And when you email them properties, eliminate those properties with small kitchens. And then we're gonna get to that a little bit later here. How long do you think you're gonna live in the house that you're gonna buy? Is it like a step-up home? Is it a temporary home? Is it something they're just gonna live in for a couple of years and then, sell it, move into something bigger? And so they might not be as picky about it because they're just gonna live it for a couple of years, right? So they're just like, okay, let's just find something with this within this price range. We're just gonna live there for a couple of years, and, we have another house being built somewhere else in the meantime. Or maybe they're gonna retire there, so they want this to be the perfect home and, they're gonna have the grandkids over and so forth. Let's see, what are the three property characteristics that you must have and three that are deal breakers? Right, this also comes back to, I don't want a small kitchen, that's a deal breaker. So the characteristics that they do want is they want a big kitchen, so the same three things that are deal breakers could be the things that they're looking for also, right, the opposite. Even things like they don't want to be backing to like a major street because of the traffic noise. Or they don't want to be by an airport because of the airplane noise, whatever the deal may be. What are you looking for in a real estate agent? Because maybe they worked with an agent, so back when you were asking questions and all this stuff and you're gauging, if they bought and sold before, if they have, then they worked with an agent. And if they have, why didn't they call that agent? Maybe the agent, maybe they had an experience.
maybe they're yelling at them.
Yeah, maybe.
That's what mine said.
Yeah, so you want to know what the reason is, right? So what are you looking for in an agent, and what turns you off about an agent? If you were working with an agent, why didn't you use that? Why aren't you using that agent now? Why do you call that agent? They're gonna tell you everything they did wrong. So now you know they don't like this, so I'm not gonna do that, right? They didn't communicate with me, they didn't call me, and they didn't answer my phone calls, like now whenever they call, answer the phone. So keep this in mind that, and tell the client too, that the criteria is not set in stone, it's gonna evolve right after they start looking at homes. So they might think they want this, and that. And in most cases, it changes because they see a different type of home, maybe it's decorated differently or remodeled a certain way, and they're like, oh my God, I never thought about opening up, tearing down the wall and opening this up, and now they have a different outlook as to what they want. So it's gonna change. So just let them know that, hey, I know this is what you want now, but also you keep in mind that it might change. So show your value. Present to the client the value you bring and what sets you apart from ordinary realtors. And here's the thing. Every realtor is gonna say the same thing. I mean, they can do the same thing. They can show property, they can email you properties, they can answer your phone calls, return your emails. But what's gonna set you apart? Or maybe it's the way you present it to them is what's gonna set you apart. So the things that you wanna do is, hey, I'm gonna search for the right home for you. Right, I'm not just gonna send you a bunch of like properties that you're not interested in, and you're gonna be like, don't send me this crap, I just want homes that I'm interested in, don't send me this. I'm gonna schedule and show those homes, so you can go through the whole process of what you're gonna do for them. Once we find the homes that you like, I'm gonna contact the agent, schedule the showings. Show you each property, we're gonna go around and look at those properties. And if you like one of those properties, you're gonna write up an offer, we're gonna submit and negotiate the offer, so. And then we'll go into a couple other slides here, talking about the offer itself. Manage the transaction. I'm gonna manage the transaction. I'm not gonna have a transaction coordinator doing that for me. A lot of agents do that. But I wanna make sure that we have all the forms that we need, when we need them, and I'm gonna know what's going on throughout the whole process. Right, because a lot of agents that have transaction coordinators, they don't know what forms have been submitted and what's signed and what's not. They have to call the TC and say, hey, do we have these forms? Like, how do you not know? You should know this stuff, you're the agent. And since you're new, you should know what forms you need and how to set them up for digital signatures and what, like, where you are in the process. This is a good learning experience for you. So the agents that use TCs right now, that have been doing this for years, they have 3-4 transactions going on at the same time. And a TC is a good thing to have because, you know, you need time to go out and get more listings and maybe reach out to the buyers or sellers that you're working with and explain things to them and stuff. The paperwork, you can let someone else handle it that, right? But the paperwork's not that difficult. Once you do it, you've been through it.
Yeah.
Once you do it, you send it out, you wait for the signatures.
Keep track of it.
Yeah, or you sit down with the client, you explain to them if they have any questions, you know, read through. You have any questions? No, okay, sign here, whatever, right? You have the paper. Once that's done, it's done. You don't have to, like. A lot of people make a big deal about, oh my God, all the paperwork. It's like, once you do it, you're gonna realize. So you're gonna manage the transaction, the inspections, you have to schedule inspections for them too, right? So you're gonna schedule the physical inspection. You're going to negotiate repairs, you're gonna do all that stuff for them. So you wanna show them the purchase agreement, so show your ability to navigate the purchase agreement. I would have a copy of the purchase contract, just to show them, hey, look, these are all the forms that we're gonna have to sign, fill out, sign, and submit to them. Discuss with the client how you suggest presenting the offer. Hey, we should reduce the contingency periods because that makes the offer a little more attractive. We should offer, you know, maybe 21-day escrow. We should do this, blah, 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 because this is gonna make the offer a little more attractive. So discuss different types of ways that you can get the offer, you can make the offer a little more appealing. Excuse me, review the RPA with the client, particularly section 3, describe your method of negotiation, modify contingency periods, we talked about that, interest rate protection, how you're gonna protect them as far as interest rate is concerned for in case they don't qualify, right? Let's see, assignment of costs. Briefly touch upon each applicable item in section 3, and I'll show you guys what that is. This is section 3 on page 1 of the purchase contract. So you're gonna talk to them about the price on letter A, whether it's all cash or not. And then how many days escrow is gonna be. 30 days is, you know, typical. But if you want it to look more appealing, it's gonna be 21 days. Expiration of offer, you don't have to explain it, it's 3 days, it expires after 3 days. Initial deposit, most people leave 3%. So whatever 3% of your offer is, that's what number's gonna go in there. Don't worry about increased deposit, you're gonna do the loan amount. So the loan amount is gonna be, I don't know, it's like if you're gonna leave 20% down, then it's gonna be 8% loan, right? So whatever 8% is, you're gonna enter that number. And you're going to say that the rate not to exceed a certain percentage. So let's say right now loans are, the rate is going for like, I think 6.75. Right? And if you put in there about 1/4% higher than what they're qualified for. So if it's a 6.75 right now, you're gonna enter 7% right there. So that means that if rates go up within this purchase or this transaction and they exceed 7%, your buyer's doesn't have to move forward with it if they don't want to, they can cancel because of that. But if you don't enter a number there, even if the rate goes up and they qualify for it, but they don't want to move forward with it, they have to. So this is protecting them pretty much, but explain to them that, and I can get Rich to explain it to you guys a little bit better. But this is something that'll make you look like you know what you're doing compared to other agents, because then I can sit and explain this to them.
I have a question.
Yeah,
On the loan amount, is there like a specific, if you get a loan, how much the down payment is? Is there like a specific amount, like 7%, 10%?
well, you're gonna be approved based on how much you're gonna be able to leave down to.
So you have to put a down payment though.
Yes,
And then is there like a specific amount that you have to put?
I think it's 3.5% is the lowest up to however much. You
Oh,
want.
okay, so,
But you have to approve based on how much you're gonna down.
so the lender is the one that.
Yeah, the lender's gonna do all that.
Okay.
They check your credit, they check your income, they check your debt. They check like a lot of
So
things.
you don't decide that, the lender
No,
does?
yeah.
Okay.
And then also down here, buyer to pay up to 0, so here you're gonna put 0 points. Just to, again, that's another protection for your buyer. In case they say, well, they qualify if they pay 1 point, it's like, well, here we said 0 points. So now that's another out for you. So just, even if you just go through this and explain to them, other agents aren't doing this. They're just sitting down saying, hey, use me because I'm the best, I'm the #1 agent, I've sold how many houses here, blah, whatever. This is what I know, I'm gonna negotiate for you. The buyer representation of broker compensation agreement. This is like a listing agreement, but for a buyer, for an agent and a buyer. So present the buyer representation of broker compensation agreement to them, explain the agreement. The agent cannot take them to tour properties without having this signed. So explain to them that that's the law now. That I'd love to show you properties, but we have to sign this contract in order for me to take you out. Otherwise, I think it's a, what is it, $2,500 fine? Something like that. Explain your fees. So, or what do I have on the next one? Okay, so when it comes to fees, you're gonna tell them this is what we charge. 3% of whatever the purchase price is, that you have to pay me, but don't freak out, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer. We can negotiate that into the purchase contract. There's a section in the contract, and you can show them that, because you have a copy of it, where we can ask the seller to pay for that. We can ask them to pay for all of it. We can ask them to pay for some of it. So anything that the seller pays for, as far as my commissions, it credits towards what you owe me. So if you agree to pay me 3%, and the seller counters and says, we're only gonna pay 2%, then you only owe me 1%. Because they're paying the other 2%. And at that point, you can decide whether you wanna waive that extra 1%. Right?
You
or
can
not.
do that at the end?
Yeah, after the offer's been accepted, you can write an addendum to modify. There's a modification of this form that you say that they're only responsible for 2%. And then now they don't owe you that extra 1%.
Would you recommend just saying 3% then, from the get-go?
Yeah, ask for 3%.
Yeah.
And then see what the seller's going to pay. So,
Does the seller have to like, either accept it or counter it? Or do they just decline it right away?
yeah,
Like
but
that.
so if they're gonna decline it, it's not gonna be for that.
Okay.
Usually they're gonna counter you with something. So there's different things that the seller can counter you for it, and the commission is one of the things, right? So maybe if you're asking for 3%, they're gonna say, no, but we'll give you 2%. But in all other terms, we agree to. Or you're offering $1.5 million, we want $1.550 million. But we agree to everything else, including the commission. Or you offer $1.5 million, we want $1.550 million, and we're only gonna pay you 2%. And we want the contingency period to drop to this, and we want, so they can counter a lot of things, everything in the contract, right? Whatever you submitted. No one does that, but sometimes the offer looks so bad that they just reject it. They say, no, we're not even gonna change it. But they can counter anything. It's all negotiable. And then you can talk to your buyer and, go from there. Hey, what would you like to do? Do you want to counter back at $1,525,000? So we're 25 above what we offered initially and 25 below what they countered at. Meet halfway, okay? Cool. And then what about commission? Are you okay with them paying 2%? Are you okay with paying the other 1%? Or let's ask them for 2.5%. I don't know. You don't have to do that, but probably not gonna negotiate that, but. So you go back and forth until everybody accepts the terms. And here's the buyer representation agreement. So make sure that when you write up the agreement, you have it's the beginning period, the beginning date and the ending date, and it cannot exceed 3 months. Okay? And then check the box that says exclusive. The reason you want to check the box that says exclusive is when that's checked, if they buy through somebody else, you're still entitled to a commission.
I have a question.
Yeah.
That's 6 months, isn't it? December to June?
Yeah, it is.
So that should be March.
Yeah, it should be,
Okay.
it should be March. Yeah, so don't look at the numbers.
Okay.
Good catch.
It
Damn.
was, no, because that was a good question.
Yeah, it should be 3 months.
Okay.
Yep. On a listing contract, you wanna go 6 months to a year,
Okay,
but on this one, it's 3 months. If you don't check mark exclusive, then they can
have another
They
person.
can have different agents, sign with different agents and whatever, but also when it's exclusive and they wanna cancel it. It cancels in 30 days. So like, let's say they started working with us on the 17th, and then like today, they wanna cancel it. So that means that if they sign the cancellation or email you that they wanna cancel it, then that means that it will cancel, the contract will cancel in 30 days.
From today's date.
From today's date. But if it's non-exclusive, if they cancel, then it's canceled. So this protects you in a couple of ways. Does that make sense?
If it's non-exclusive, then it doesn't matter.
If it's non-exclusive, they can cancel today and it's canceled today.
Oh, okay. That means they're using other people anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
And so anytime you fill this out, they sign it, give them a copy of it or email them a copy of it. So anything that they sign throughout the whole transaction, send them a copy of it. They should have a copy if they're e-signing it, because when you e-sign something, it allows you to download it. So next is the search. You're gonna search the MLS and email them properties, and schedule an auto email. So when you search for properties, here's another thing with when you're talking about communication and the criteria they're looking for. You can tell them, hey, I'm gonna set you up in an auto email. Well, I can't set you up on an auto email, or I can search every day and look for properties that specifically match your criteria. There's some people that end up not liking their agents or not being satisfied with their agents because they just send them everything that's on the market. And then they say, they didn't listen to a word I said. I don't want pool homes, they're sending me pool homes. I don't want two-story homes, they're sending me two-story homes. Along with one-story homes, but, so this is where you ask them, hey, would you like me to send you everything that's on the market that matches your price and the criteria in that neighborhood? Just so because you never know, there might be something that you didn't think that you wanted, but there might be something that you like, right? Or what I can do is I can log in every day and search for specifically what you're looking for. And just send you that and let them decide, right? And if they want you to send them specific properties that only with the criteria that they're searching for, then do that, then log in every day and see if there's any new listings, so forth. But when you do that, just keep in mind that they're gonna end up calling you saying, hey, I found this house on Zillow. And it's, blah, 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 but you didn't send it to me. It's like, well, it's not in the criteria that you were asking, right? So now there might be that issue, but at least you're telling them that you listen to what their needs are and you're only sending homes that they asked for. And then that might change and that they might say, well, just send me everything, right? So there you go. There's another, yeah.
Someone did that to me, so I went on Zillow, or not Zillow, on our CRMLS, and I couldn't find it. And I had the address and it wasn't coming, I spent an hour trying to search this place that she found on Zillow. And then when it finally popped up, for whatever reason, it was a land lease and they wanted no land lease. So it's like, okay, well, this is a land lease, you still want it, oh, no.
Yeah.
That's why it didn't pop up on hers.
There you go.
But like sometimes they're hard to find, like the ones on Zillow, for some reason. They don't pop up on, do you think it was because of the criteria?
It could be. It could be. I mean, if you search the address, then you can find it using the address. But does this make sense though?
Yes.
So either set them up on an auto email, let them know you're gonna receive everything that's on the market that matches their criteria that we enter, or I can send you an email when something comes up. And they might say, you might not hear from me with any emails for like a week or 2 weeks because, there's no new listings that match their criteria. So schedule showings. So after they narrow down what homes they want to see, you can schedule the showings. Another approach is to narrow the list yourself and show them, pick 5 properties you want to show them, the top 5 that you think they'll like, and map it out and schedule the showings for that. Make sure that you read and adhere to the showing instructions for each listing. Because there's potential financial violations if you don't adhere to the showing instructions. Again, $1,500 fine for not adhering to the showing instructions, and another $1,500 fine if you show the property without permission. So that's potentially $3,000 in fines. Schedule the showings and give yourself between 30 to 45 minutes between each showing. So what I recommend is you map out what, where you're gonna go first and then second and third, like they're on the way of each other, right? Any questions on this? Everything sounds easy, right?
Mhm.
But like, once you do it, once you're actually doing it, you're gonna forget all this, and you're like, oh God, what do I do next? That's why I'm trying to give you guys like the easiest way to go through all of this, right? Just to make it sound easy. It's easy until you actually do it.
It makes sense though.
Yeah, well, you went through all this.
Yeah, because you need the time to go between places and you don't want to be jumping around.
But you also
want
need
to-
time at the property, you let them look around and say, oh, well, I could put my TV here and my furniture here. Oh, wow, this is cool. Let me measure. Sometimes they're gonna be in there for 5 minutes, and sometimes they're gonna be in there for 20, 30 minutes.
Can I go back in the bathroom and look again?
Yeah.
Let me see the closet again one more time.
Make sure you have the e-key app installed on your phone and activate it. So it's not just that you have to install it, you have to activate it. So you're gonna call OCAR or Orange County Realtors for the activation key or code or whatever, and they charge you $15, $16 a month for the subscription. So make sure you have that because that's how you're gonna be able to get into the properties. And let's see. I would print out the client customer report or printout of each property and give them to the client in case they want to write any notes on it. And give them a pen. Or maybe you can just write a big X if they don't like it. So they know, put those aside and then write notes about what they liked or don't like about a particular property. And also print one for yourself, the agent copy. What did I want to say about this? Oh, show up to the property. I'd go to one of the properties ahead of time. And again, to practice opening the lockbox. Practice, because it's not always gonna work. So you don't wanna look silly.
It took a half an hour for me to open the first one.
With your client there? What did she say?
She knew. She was like, oh, no, it's okay. And she walked around. She took a little tour of the condominium. She's like, I'll just walk around while you open it up.
If you guys, once you download the app and activate it, if you wanna practice on the lockbox, I have one that you can practice.
Yeah, I should
Just opening it.
practice.
Yeah, so let me know ahead of time and I'll bring that in for you guys. Exercise safety when showing, don't show any vacant homes at night. Unless you're as big as Zach over here, then I wouldn't worry about it, right? Always keep the door open when showing, so like if you're showing a property, let them go in front of you. Like if you're going into the bedroom, let them go into the bedroom, if you're gonna see the bathroom, let them go into the bathroom, you stay behind them. Because once you're in that room and they're behind you, they can just close the door and now you're locked in, right? So just exercise safety, maybe carry pepper spray with you. Just hold it in your hand just in case, you never know. You can take a friend with you. Another realtor. So now that you've shown properties and they like one and they want to submit an offer on one, what's next? So tell the clients that prior to making an offer, you're going to provide necessary research identifying the estimated value of the subject property, so they're comfortable with the price offered, and can be substantiated through the competent market analysis that you provided, right? So to better serve the client, you're going to search the MLS for comps. So we found a property they like, show them the property, they want to submit an offer, and unless they know what they want to offer, they're probably going to ask you, what do you think I should offer? Well, you're not going to tell them what they should offer or suggest what they should offer. You're going to search the MLS, you're going to search the comps, you're going to present your findings, make an informed recommendation. So what this means is search the MLS for that particular neighborhood, for that type of property, and look at closed sales. So Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, this is what they're selling for. This is what their prices are, the houses are for this, or the market price for this neighborhood for this type of home. Now that you have that information, what would you like to offer? And they're always gonna blame you if they don't get it. Even if you say, you know what, these are only on the market for 3 days, they're going to escrow right away, so they're going fast, there's a lot of buyers for these. I'd offer 25,000 above asking price, 50,000 above asking price, whatever it is. Maybe call the agent, say, hey, what'll get us the home? Do you have any other offers? Get some insight, right, as to what the situation is. And then make your recommendation. And ultimately, it's gonna be up to them. You don't want them to exceed what they're, stretch their finances to where they're not gonna be able to afford food because it's all mortgage payment, right? So let them make that determination.
Is 6 months like pretty good for the comparables, like give a good range for them?
Yeah, but I would use the most recent ones. So in 6 months, there might be 3 sales the last 6 months, there might be 15 sales the last 6 months. And you're gonna notice the price is gonna keep going up.
Yeah.
So whatever the most recent ones are, and maybe if there wasn't a sale, like the recent sale like 3 or 4 months back, then that's what you're gonna use, right? So let's see, we talked about this. Write up and submit your offer. So now that you guys have an offer that they're comfortable submitting. Obtain a property profile from the title company. You can find out who the seller is, what the seller's name is. Have the MLS printout of the listing ready for reference. So when you write up the offer, they're gonna ask for the property address, the city, the state, the zip code, the parcel number, so you're gonna need that information. It's all gonna ask you, you're gonna have to write in who the listing agent is, who the listing brokerage is, what their DRE number is for each of them. So that you're gonna need that information for the offer. That's why you should have the MLS printout of the listing. So you're gonna write up the offer. Have the buyer sign the offer in person or digitally. And then you're gonna sign the offer. And what I didn't write in here, but it's written in there, is you're also gonna, at this point, have either a pre-approval from the lender, a letter of pre-approval, or if they're gonna pay cash, proof of funds that they have that amount of money in the bank. But if they're not gonna pay cash, you're gonna have the pre-approval letter and proof of funds for the down payment, that they have the money for the down payment. So what you're gonna do, once you have all this information, you have your offer signed, you're gonna send an email to the listing agent with a subject line that says offer for 123 Main Street. And within that offer, you're gonna include or attach the RPA, the purchase agreement, the pre-approval letter, and proof of funds, which could be a bank statement, it could be a summary of their portfolio that shows that they have money they're gonna be using for the purchase. And let the buyer know that there may be counteroffers, and you should be ready to discuss with the buyer if there's any counteroffers. Make sure to have the buyer sign all counteroffers. And there might be addendums too. So any counteroffers or addendums, make sure that they're fully executed, signed by all parties. And then you have an accepted offer. So once you go through counters, if there's any counters, everybody agrees to it, everything's signed. Buyer signed, seller signed, listing agent signed, buyer's agent signed, fully executed, you're good.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Is it normal for some agents to ask for the pre-approval or the funds available before you've even offered it, just to go look at it?
Yeah, because we did that, I did that once for a property in Downey, a listing that I had. And because the property was, it's like a divorce situation. And they only wanted people that were serious buyers. They said, we don't want people coming through the house.
Looky loose.
Yeah, so I asked for proof of funds to show
Prior
that they
to.
could, yeah, that they, because it was like, I think at the time. 1.2, $1.3 million, and back then that was it was a lot of money, right? Now 1.2 is like a freaking condo, 2-bedroom condo, but it was a pretty big house. And again, they didn't want just a bunch of people going through, so they wanted proof of funds that they can afford it. So we asked them to send that information. So sometimes you're gonna get that. So now the acceptance, right? What happens after your offer's been accepted? You go to Disneyland, celebrate, maybe glass of champagne. So you're gonna call your buyer to congratulate them on their accepted offer. Right? It's exciting, you know, like, make sure you sound enthusiastic about it. Notify the loan officer that the offer was accepted, provide them with any documentation they request, or they might ask for a copy of the purchase contract, send them whatever they need. But you definitely should notify the loan officer. Or have the buyer do it. Escrow is gonna reach out to you after the offer's been accepted, because the listing agent is gonna open escrow with whatever escrow company that was selected. And let's see. So, opening escrow after the acceptance. Just so you guys know, escrow will contact the buyer with wire instructions to send the deposit. Instruct the buyer to call escrow to confirm the wire instructions to prevent fraud. So this is where a lot of fraudsters end up making a lot of money, and buyers lose a lot of money. They intercept communication between buyer and escrow. And when they find out that someone opened escrow, they'll disguise themselves as escrow through email, send the buyer an email, say, hey, wire your deposit here. And the buyer's like, oh, okay, escrow said, okay, cool. So they wire the deposit, and then money's gone, because that's not even escrow. It's just somebody pretending to be escrow. Once you wire money, that's gone. Can't get it back. So make sure that when you tell your buyer, when you receive a wire instructions from escrow, call escrow and confirm the wire instructions and the account number to make sure that it's escrow, and explain to them why. This is very important. You don't want your client to lose money. So they're gonna want full names of all buyers. Initials are not enough. It's full first name, middle name, last name if they have it. Their contact information and their marital status. How the buyers want to take title. This is what escrow is gonna ask for. Lender contact information. That's it. I had more on there. Continued, okay. So the escrow holder, this is what escrow does, okay? They serve as a neutral stakeholder and the communications link between all parties in the transaction. So they're a neutral third party that holds the money. Right, and they confirm all the negotiations and whatever was agreed upon between the two parties until the transaction closes. They prepare escrow instructions, which summarizes what was agreed to on the terms. They request a preliminary title search to determine the present condition of the title of the property. You guys know what title search is. They search for liens. Make sure that any liens are going to be paid for before the transfer. Make sure that the title search that the seller is the actual owner of the property, and that there's no litigation going on, and like maybe there's family members that are fighting over who owns the property because the parent died, whatever. They make sure that's free and clear. So this is what title does. They request a beneficiary statement and debt or obligation to be taken over by the buyer. Complies with lender requirements specified in the escrow agreement. Receives purchase funds from the buyer, the down payment. Prepares, secures a deed or other documents related to escrow. They prorate taxes, interest, insurance, and rents according to instructions. So when, let's say the transaction is going to close in the middle of the month, there's still taxes that are owed and prorations on the current loan for the seller that the seller's got, all this stuff. So escrow figures all this stuff out and pays everything accordingly. Secures releases of conditions as imposed by any particular escrow. Records deeds and any of the documents as instructed. Requests issuance of title insurance policy. Closes the escrow when all instructions of buyer and seller have been carried out. Disperses funds as authorized by instructions, including charges for title insurance, reporting fees, real estate commissions, and loan payoffs. So from the money that they get, after the close or during the close, they pay all these things off. They pay the existing loan or that the seller had on the property. They pay commissions, they pay closing costs, title fees, escrow fees, courier fees, reporting fees, notary fees, all that stuff out of the proceeds. Prepares final statements for the parties accounting for the disposition of funds deposited in escrow. So the seller's going to have their closing statement and the buyer's going to have their closing statement as to where all the money went. This is what the the selling price was, this is what all the fees were associated with the seller. And the same thing for the buyer, this is what fees you paid for, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer. Let's see. Escrow holder does not offer legal advice. Sometimes the buyers or sellers will call escrow and say, hey, what do you think we should do? They're not supposed to give legal advice. They don't negotiate the transaction. So sometimes they'll call escrow and say, hey, can you tell the buyer that I want this is, it's like, nope, call your agent, let them do that. We don't do that. All we do is you guys give us the addendums signed by all parties that they're agreed to, and then we'll amend the escrow instructions. Otherwise, we don't negotiate that. They don't offer investment advice. They don't notify the loan officer that the buyer is an escrow. Again, that's our job, right, as a buyer's agent. Any questions on that? So during the contingency period, order and schedule any inspections, physical inspection. If the seller didn't agree to pay for termite and the buyer has to pay for termite, then you order the termite inspection. But usually the seller pays for that. It's negotiated usually in the purchase contract that the seller pays for that. Order a home warranty. Or the NHD report, usually escrow will order this. Negotiate a repair request or credits towards repairs. So after you get the physical inspection, you're gonna email it to your buyer, or they're gonna get a copy of it. And then ask them what they want repaired, or, you know, or maybe they want credit, like a credit towards the repairs. And then you're gonna confirm agreed upon repairs, that they're complete prior to closing. So during the contingency period, this is what's gonna happen. And here's the transaction timeline that I love so much to use and discuss with you guys. I can't think of another way to just better illustrate the life of a transaction. You guys have seen this before, right? And do you guys want me to go over it? Okay, all right. So this is, I love this thing. It's awesome. So day zero is acceptance. So today, the acceptance was delivered via email to either the buyer or whoever accepted it was emailed. That's acceptance, right? Just because your seller signed today or your buyer, whoever's the last person in negotiations to sign and accept it, that doesn't mean that today's the acceptance date. When it's delivered, that is the acceptance date. So if it was signed today, accepted today, but not emailed until Sunday, Sunday is acceptance day because it was delivered on that day. Okay, so day zero is acceptance day. Deliverance, right? Tomorrow would be day one in the 30-day escrow. And so we're using just the default language of the purchase contract based on the 30-day escrow. We didn't reduce the contingency periods, we didn't do anything. Everything's just the way it is in the contract. So I would, within the first 3 days as a buyer's agent, order the inspection. So you're gonna call Elite Group or Amerispec or one of those companies and schedule an inspection. Now, within 3 days, the buyer should have already deposited, or by 3 days, should wire in the deposit, earnest money deposit. And then during this time, the buyer should have shown proof of pre-qualification or pre-approval. We've already done that with the offer. Shown proof of down payment. We've already done that with the offer. Deposit money in escrow, we talked about that. Buyer seller evidence, active representative capacity. So if the seller, if the property's in a trust or an LLC, they should have already shown the escrow documentation showing that the seller can sign on behalf or sell on behalf of that entity. The seller should request HOA or common interest disclosures. That's gonna be through escrow. So escrow is gonna order HOA docs, but the seller has to pay for them. So escrow orders them, but then escrow, the seller's gotta come in with the money to pay for it. So that happens within the first 3 days. Again, you want to order your inspection schedule within the first 3 days. Okay, so by the 7th day, the seller's disclosures and reports to buyer, including TDS, should have already been in. So the seller's gonna send any seller's disclosures regarding the property to the buy side, the buyer's agent. And what you're gonna do as a buyer's agent is you're gonna review all that stuff with your client. have them sign it. And return it. Let's see. Let's go to deliver preliminary report. So the preliminary title report should be in, and you're gonna get that through escrow. And again, this is from the title report. So it's goes of any transfer leased. You should have. The seller should have already notified you of any like potential leased items on the property, like solar panels. What else? Certain things that are gonna be leased that go with the property. Seller delivery of updated number status. Okay, again, more seller's disclosures. These should have already all been sent to you by the 7th day. And when they deliver them, you have up to 5 days. The buyer has up to 5 days to review them, sign them, and return them signed. Or the 17th day, whatever the later of the two is. So 5 days would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the 12th day. But your contingency period is 17 days, so whichever one is the furthest one out. Does that make sense? Yes? Okay. So that means if they give us a seller's disclosure on day 15, do we have until the 17th day to remove those contingencies for that? Or do we have until the 20th to remove those contingencies? Because it's the later of those two, right? So if either 5 days after delivery or the contingency period that was agreed upon, whichever the later of the two is, that's when you remove that contingency.
Delivering the preliminary report?
Well, even that. So if you don't get the prelim until the 15th day, you still have 5 days to review that. Even though you said you're gonna remove it on the 17th day.
And what is the preliminary report?
It's the title report
Oh, okay.
that shows the liens, any easements, any, the title change, title, make sure that the sellers are the correct owners.
That comes from escrow.
Yeah, and so within the, preliminary title report, you're also gonna find like if there's a parking assigned to that particular unit or that's not attached, right? Or things like, or storage or something that's attached to that property that's not literally attached, physically attached. So let's say that you ordered the inspection on day 1. And then they came in on day 7 to inspect the property. And then they take a couple of days to return it to you, so now you have it around the 9th or the 10th, the actual inspection report. And now you're with your buyer, going through the inspection report, and then you say, going through it, would you like them to repair anything, or would you like to request credit towards repair so you can just do it yourself? And then they say, okay, we want them to fix these 4 things. Okay, so now you're on day 10. You're gonna write up a request for repairs. Mr. Seller, Mrs. Seller, the buyer would like you to repair these things. Or they're okay with cash, like a credit in lieu of it, so that the buyer can repair it themselves. And then you send that out, and then I think there's 2 days for them to respond, 3 days, I'm not sure. And then they respond to you, they can either accept it, say, yeah, we'll fix it. Or they can respond with, we'll give you $5,000 at close of escrow so you can fix it yourself. And then the buyer either agrees to it, or they could do another response to request for repairs or a new request for repairs, or whatever, right? Negotiate until everybody's happy. So that can happen. Or the seller could just say, no, we're not gonna repair it, or we're not gonna give you money. Does that mean that the transaction's over? And no, it's not. So you still move forward. Now, you can decide as a buyer can decide, you know what, they don't want to fix it, I don't want to buy the house, you can cancel. Because you're still within the 17-day period, you haven't removed contingencies. So the buyer can cancel if they want to. Or they can move forward with it. Say, you know what, it's not a big deal, we'll just fix it ourselves, we'll move forward with it. Another thing they can request or negotiate is a reduction in the purchase price. Credits, or that repairs themselves. All right. Another thing is by that time you should have already had, if you asked them to pay for a termite inspection, the report should already be in as well. And then that could be something you're gonna negotiate into the request for repairs. So for them to fix any termite issues or a credit towards it as well.
And that's includes Saturday and Sunday, all the days, right? 17 days,
Yes,
it's every day, so.
yeah. So now that you negotiated and they either accepted or they got a credit or whatever it is, everybody's happy. Now, there's gonna be days in between, like I've mentioned before, that you're not gonna have anything to do with the transaction. Maybe you already had everything signed, all the disclosures are in, the inspection, either you're waiting for them to do the inspection or the inspection's done, the request for repairs, that's been negotiated. Now you're just sitting there waiting. So you could work on marketing, you could work on getting other leads, calling people in your sphere of influence, hey, you thinking about selling, you know, whatever, right? Get more leads while this is simmering. So now this is taking place and now 17th day gets here, well. 17 days is when you're supposed to remove contingencies, right? Or the buyer's supposed to remove contingencies. But if the seller wants, they can send a notice to buyer to perform 2 days prior to the 17th day. Let me back up. The buyer can cancel for any reason if they have not removed contingencies. The seller can't. The seller's stuck. So the seller gets another offer for, you know, $200,000 more. They're like, damn it, how do I get out of this? The seller can send a notice to perform to the buyer to remove all the contingencies by the 17th day. So they can send it 2 days prior to when they're due. If the buyer doesn't remove contingencies on the 17th day, the seller can cancel unilaterally on the 18th day. That's their out. You're like, yes, $200,000 more.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you don't usually see people send the notice to perform, sellers send it. A lot of agents don't know about it, a lot of them don't like to do it because they're like, oh, I don't wanna freak the other agent out, because when you get one of these, or you send one out, the other agent's like, seller wants to cancel, what are you doing? This is to protect the seller. I send it out. Whether there's another offer or not, I just say, hey, I reach out to the agent and say, hey, don't freak out. This is company policy to protect our seller. I'm gonna send you a notice to perform, so just to let you know. And they're like, oh, okay, cool, thanks. But if you just email it, they're like, oh my God, they wanna cancel, what's going on, what, you know? So most people don't send this out. So if they don't send this out, you can remove contingencies on the 17th day or not. If you don't remove contingencies, nothing happens. The transaction lives on. You might get an email on the 18th day from the listing agent saying, hey, you didn't remove contingencies, can you send that over? Sure, man. Gotcha, I'll send it over tomorrow. 20th day, the agent, hey, you haven't sent over removal contingencies, what's going on? Oh, I sent it to my buyer, they're, you know, they haven't had a chance to look at it, they're gonna sign it. Okay. Go all the way to the end without removing contingencies, it's so close. Right,
They could back out though, if it's not signed, right?
buyers can back out. I had one transaction. I think it was that one, the same one I told you about, where the buyers didn't remove contingencies the whole time, and I'm like, we're gonna cancel, if you don't remove contingencies. We sent them a notice to perform like 3 times. They didn't do it, but we closed.
Oh.
But I was like,
They
man,
didn't close.
there's probably another house they're looking at, they wanna
Yeah,
buy,
it's scary.
why aren't you removing contingencies?
Mhm.
So it's kind of scary because they can cancel for any reason, but so. A transaction was still closed without removing contingencies, but. The buyer benefits from that, right?
Just then you wasted your time, you could add other offers with them.
But you as a buyer's agent too, you're like, hey man, why aren't you removing them? Like, what's going on?
Right.
Is this not gonna close? Am I not gonna get paid? What's going on? So, once you remove contingencies, then you're pretty much like. Right, we're good, we're clear sailing hopefully from here on.
Both agents.
Yeah. So let's say 17th day, everything's going smoothly. Buyer removes contingencies, and all it is signing a form saying I remove all contingencies. On the contingency removal form, it's listed individually if you want to remove, like, the inspection contingency. And only that one's removed, or the appraisal contingency, or the loan, you know, there's a list of them. Or at the bottom, we remove all contingencies, that's the one you want. Now, transactions going through, the lender's getting final documents to close everything and fund everything. And then when you get to 5 days prior to closing, any repairs that they agreed to make, sellers, they should be done by then. So, or if there's a tenant living in the home and they have to be out by 5 days prior to closing, that's when they should be out by. So this is when you and your buyer are gonna go do the final walkthrough, which is the verification of property condition. That's the name of the form. You walk through the property, make sure that it's in, if there's no repairs that were agreed upon, then the property should be in the condition that it was in when you first bought it, right? You first submitted your offer. But if there's repairs that were agreed to, look through to make sure that those repairs are made. Everything's good, you're gonna sign the form, send it to the seller, they're gonna sign it, and then you're gonna move to close escrow. And the earliest that you can send the demand to close escrow is 3 days prior. That hardly happens. It happens once in a really long time, I don't know what percentage, but it's a very small percentage. But then escrow closes after 30 days. There's questions, I know there's questions. Shaw, you may question.
No, following, I mean, it's a lot of information, but all these timeline, but I'm sure I'm following it.
Does it make sense though, the way it's laid out here?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay. Come on.
So the notice to buyer to perform, they're not forced to sign that either. No, you're not forcing them to do anything.
No, so this is what the seller signs. It's just a form that has a line for the seller to sign. Doesn't have anything for the buyer to sign. He's just saying, the seller wants you to do this within 2 days, and if you don't, they're gonna cancel. So then the buyer's response would be, they send the contingency removal form removing all contingencies. That's what their response would be. Or not respond at all. And the transaction stays alive.
Like money. They didn't respond.
Yeah,
They stayed alive.
Yeah.
They really wanted the place, but they didn't sign until the end.
let's see, what else can we talk about within this transaction? Like I said, you're gonna have a lot of time between this with nothing to do in the transaction. Oh, make sure that you upload everything to SkySlope. And when you guys have a transaction, if you haven't already had one, we'll sign you up with SkySlope, and then, so what you're doing with that is you're giving the broker, the office, a copy of every form that's executed, fully signed within the transaction. And we have a checklist of forms that are required. So once you upload all that and fulfill the checklist that we provide, and it closes, and then the company gets a check for your commission, then you get paid. But if you don't fulfill that checklist and we're missing things, it's gonna hold up your check. So make sure that as you get these signed, upload them to SkySlope. So when you get the seller disclosures by day 7, your buyer signs them, upload that to SkySlope. After your offer is accepted, upload that to SkySlope. There's a bunch of stuff on there, like the purchase contract is one of the items on the checklist. The proof of funds, that's an item on the checklist. The pre-approval letter, that's an item on the checklist. The SBQ, the TDS, all these things are on the checklist. So once you get this, you're gonna fulfill most of that checklist within the first maybe week and a half, if you have all this done. And then other things are like the inspection, copy of the inspection report, the termite inspection, the contingency removal, that's on there. Verification of property condition, that's on there. The NHD report, the escrow instructions, all that stuff is on the checklist. So as soon as you get that stuff uploaded, you're gonna be happy that you did. Because if you scramble at the end and you're like looking for everything to upload everything, you're gonna have the purchase contract signed only by your buyer. Like, yes, I found it. And then you're gonna upload that. And then I'm gonna say, hey, you're missing the seller signature on this. Upload the correct one. And then you're gonna look through your emails and, oh, I found it. Okay, here it is. It's the fully executed one. So you're gonna have a copy of the purchase contract signed by your buyer. You're gonna have a copy signed by all parties. So organization is important with this stuff.
You have to find a way to separate those, I think, because mine were all in the same.
Yeah, and I talked about that during the class, the transaction checklist class that I do. I go over the checklist of all the forms that are required, but also touch on file organization and how to save your files and save copies of all the PDFs under, you know, fully executed and all that stuff, so. Yeah, so organization is very important with this, because you're gonna have a bunch of copies of everything. And emails too, so even within your email, you're gonna have your inbox and you're gonna have other folders within your inbox. Make sure you have a folder for each transaction. And any emails associated with that transaction, move them into that folder. So that way, when you need something, you just go into that folder, you don't have to go through your whole inbox to try to find those emails. And there's a lot of agents that I've dealt with, they're like, I have to find it in my inbox, and they're going through thousands of emails just to find it. And it's just, I mean, you make it more difficult for yourself. So anyway, if there's no questions,
I have a like kind of question about like a scenario, like, so the seller could only like back down if they send the agreement, I mean, that notice, and then 2 days after?
on third day,
Okay, on the third day.
yeah,
And then, so like a buyer, could they like avoid selling like signing off the contingencies to, cause they have multiple like submitted offers, or they only be in one offer?
they can do that.
Okay,
Yeah, so here's the thing. If the seller cancels because the buyer hasn't removed contingencies, then the buyer is entitled to their deposit back. Don't tell the buyer 100% you're gonna get all your money back, so just say, most likely you'll get your money back, right? If the seller cancels. But if the buyer removes contingencies and then the buyer cancels, then they can lose their deposit.
But did you say if the buyer removes all contingencies and then they cancel?
Yeah.
Then they lose their deposit?
Yes, so like June, let's say she went to escrow and she removed all contingencies,
Okay,
and then she decides, I don't like this place, I like this other place better. And she wants to cancel, she's gonna lose her deposit. She can lose her deposit.
you can't remove contingencies and then cancel, well, you can, but you'll lose your deposit.
Yes. So that's what's important about contingencies, and when you remove them, then your deposit is at risk.
Yeah.
Right,
That's,
but if the seller cancels, because you haven't removed contingencies, then the buyer can get their deposit back.
Is a seller cancel.
Yeah.
But you haven't removed contingencies.
Right. Okay, so that's gonna be it for today,
Thank you.
and thanks for coming, guys, and hope you guys have a good Christmas and New Year.
Yeah, for some reason I thought Tuesday was the last class. I didn't know you were having one today. I thought the Tuesday class was the last.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I guess I'm not coming. Then I saw I think it was yesterday. Don't forget tomorrow's the last day.
Yeah.
I guess Tuesday was the last Tuesday class.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm glad
Carrie, Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carlos. Happy holidays to everyone.
All right, Sean.
Are you doing one now?